Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network analyst, great podcast, has a lot of insight as somebody who for years and years worked inside this league. You were a scout for how many different teams?
3 teams, Colin. 2.5 if you don't give the Browns the full credit for being a team during that period of time that I was there. But
sense of humor as well. Okay, so here's my knock on the Daniel Jones situation. Is that I think he's a pretty average quarterback who just got for 2 years a very elite contract. Now, if the Giants had most of the pieces in place, I could stomach it. They got to fix the O-line outside the left tackle. They got to fix the receiving core. They got to fix tight end. So now you're asking me, with limitations on what I can spend, Daniel, to rebuild the offense. I don't love this deal. I think the Mara family had a lot of impact here. What did you make in the number and the deal for Daniel?
Well, I think it's how you look at it, Colin. You know, if you look at that 2-year period, you're looking at that 40 number. If you go to the 3-year period, I believe it's like 37.5 on the average. And, you know, I always felt, go back to the Kirk Cousins contract when he was going through his situation, he got paid. And I want to say the number was 20 or a little over 20. And everybody freaked out. And I said, just wait a year from now, when you see where this market is heading, you're going to feel good about it. You won't feel quite as bad about it. And I would argue in terms of how you allocate your resources, Colin, a couple things. Number one, getting Daniel Jones done before the deadline allowed them to franchise tag Saquon Barkley. So if Saquon Barkley would have got to the market, even though he's a running back, the number he would have gotten would have been north of 10. Maybe it was another 3 million. Maybe it was another 4 or 5 million. But by getting Daniel Jones done, they saved that $3, $4, $5 million on being able to franchise Saquon. So I think those two things work together. Yeah.
Well, I hope they hit on some guys in the draft because, you know, the reality is their defense is getting expensive and it's good. So you predicted Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. We talked earlier, Daniel, that if they don't get him, they may just get into the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes because Carr's off the market, Brady's gone, you don't want to get into a bidding war with Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? The Texans, you don't want to be in a 3-team bidding war. Just pay the money for Aaron. I don't know what they would do if they don't get him, but here's my question. When you look at their personnel and his personality and his talent, does it work to you? What does it look like?
Yeah, with Aaron and the Jets, I mean, you know, I don't know how anybody can know exactly what you're going to get from Aaron in terms of the day-to-day personality and the buy-in. You know, in an ideal world, the Jets, they fly out, they meet with Aaron Rodgers, and they say, okay, you know, I know the way things, you know, finished up there in Green Bay, but does this re-energize you here? Go to a new team. Can we count on you showing up to some of the off-season stuff? Can maybe you throw with some of these wideouts on your own so that we don't wait 4, 5, 6 weeks for you to get in sync with all the new players you're going to be playing with? If you can get that buy-in, even if it's for 1 or 2 years, I think I love it for the Jets from that standpoint. You know, even if Aaron Rodgers isn't what he was, he's plenty good enough with their personnel to be a playoff team right now. So that's where I'd be comfortable. Man, I would be a little uncomfortable if you get out there and you say, yeah, let me think about it. Give me a week to think if I want to come join you guys. And it drags on. And then it's like, okay, I'll come, but I'm not going to be there for any of the off-season stuff. We'll see you when training camp starts. That would be a major red flag for me, and I'd be a little nervous.
Okay, so you were a scout for 3 teams. You have Bryce Young, and I agree with you, as the most polished, ready-to-play quarterback. I agree. You have C.J. Stroud second. I agree. I mean, we're kind of in line on that. Yeah. There's the Anthony Richardson situation. So people compare him to Cam, and I'm like, timeout. Cam's one of the best college players I've ever seen, ever. Vince Young, Cam, Reggie Bush, Calvin Johnson. They're guys that just, Jamar Chase, they don't even look like college players. Anthony Richardson, somebody once told me, the great ones make hard look easy. The ones that won't work, Zach Wilson, make the easy sometimes look hard. There are times I watched Anthony Richardson, I thought, this is a throw out in the flat. This is a layup. Mm-hmm. Where are you? You don't have him in your top 3 quarterbacks. What is your gut on him? Where are you on Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, you know, Colin, seeing him up close for the first time and putting your eyes on him, and then you start to see where some of this comes from because he is such a physical specimen. The athleticism, you know, obviously we knew he was going to be very athletic, but even then, you know, he was off the charts and all that stuff. I thought in the workout, I thought he was a little bit more of a natural thrower. Wasn't quite as stiff. When you get guys that are muscled up, a lot of times they're very restrictive and stiff. I actually saw some of that with Levis in his throwing workout. I thought some of that stiffness showed up. I thought Richardson was more loose than I anticipated. So that was good to see. And you can see the Utah game that everybody talks about. You can go through some of these other games and you'll see, the combination of drop passes and ricochets that result in interceptions. You can start making excuses, but I made the same point you just did on Cam, which was, let's just slow down now on saying this is Cam Newton. That Auburn team that Cam Newton was on didn't have any NFL players really on offense. I mean, that was Nick Fairley on defense, and that's about it. And he went undefeated, won the Heisman Trophy,
the SEC
and the national championship in the SEC. So I'm pumping the brakes on that. I would say, I was talking to somebody in the league this morning and brought up a great point. Said maybe if he had stability at Florida, where he had the same coaching staff his time there, maybe if they put him on the field immediately, he said, I could have seen him developing into Lamar Jackson winning the Heisman Trophy. In other words, they don't win the SEC, but he develops, and there's so many wow moments that you can't ignore it. And he could have been, that type of a special player. He just didn't have that structure. He didn't have quite the surrounding supporting cast that he needed. But that's the difference between him and Cam.
All right, good stuff. Daniel Jeremiah, host of Move the Sticks podcast, Chargers games, 3-time scout, always great. You have Jalen Carter. Off-field stuff aside, I think we said this the other day. I think Jalen Carter's a more dominant player than Will Anderson. Jalen, to me, is just a body type that doesn't exist. It's like every third year you get an interior D lineman. There's like this class has 3 edge rushers in the top 10. They're all going to be good players. So you would take Jalen Carter number 1.
Yeah, again, this is before everything that just went down, why we're at the combine. So you've got to do your homework on him and figure out that situation and really get to know him. But if we're just talking solely what you see on the field, I look at it this way, Colin. A lot of times you talk about who would you want on your team. I think it's helpful from a scouting standpoint to say, man, who do I not want to play against? And for me, it's easier, and he's a great player, but it's easier for me to game plan around Will Anderson or a really good edge rusher. It's impossible. When you get an Aaron Donald guy type in the middle, you get a Chris Jones in the middle, those guys wreck your game. There's nothing you can do about it. And they ruin you in the run game and the pass game. And they're hard to find. You've seen it with Quinnen Williams, what he's developed into for Jason's Jets there. Like, this guy is that type of a player, that type of a talent. And I think that's just a harder thing to find.
Daniel Jeremiah, good seeing you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.